We're living in an era totally defined by artificial intelligence and instantaneous global communication. Yet despite all this rapid, mind-bending advancement, human nature, our ego, our anger, our defensiveness, well, that hasn't exactly gotten an upgrade. We still argue in the boardroom, we get super defensive over Slack, and we spark major conflicts over the most basic misunderstandings. So what if the ultimate operating manual for navigating our hyper-connected world wasn't written in Silicon Valley, but in an ancient deer park over 2 millennia ago? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a 2,500-year-old psychological framework from the Anumāna Sutta, and honestly, it's shockingly relevant to our modern, high-stress professional lives. We're going to extract these ancient insights and translate them into highly practical tools for emotional intelligence that you can literally start using today. To do this efficiently, here is our roadmap. 1. Peace and ancient wisdom. 2. Traits of the hard to admonish. 3. Flipping the script. 4. The empathy engine. And 5. The mirror of the mind. All right, let's jump straight into part 1. Peace and ancient wisdom, grounding the AI era in ancient text. The setup for this is actually pretty fascinating. The Anumāna Sutta was delivered by the Venerable Mahā Moggallāna to a group of monks at the Behesa Deer Park. Now, don't mistake this for just some dry religious sermon. It is a timeless masterclass in emotional intelligence. He's addressing a fundamental human flaw, which is just how poorly we react to feedback. And let's be real, whether you're a monk in ancient times or a project manager today, the challenge of accepting criticism without getting defensive, it's exactly the same. Moving right along to part 2, traits of the hard to admonish, where we diagnose that defensiveness. The ancient text identifies 16 specific traits that make a person hard to admonish, or to put it in modern terms, an absolute nightmare to work with. Let's group them logically so they're easier to digest. This first set brilliantly illustrates the vicious cycle of unchecked ego. I mean, we've all encountered someone like this, right? That colleague who constantly talks themselves up while putting others down, or who just explodes with sudden anger and holds on to these deep-seated grudges forever. It is a perfect psychological snapshot of how a fragile internal ego instantly manifests as outward hostility. And that hostility naturally bleeds right into our next category, defensiveness and arguing. When confronted, this type of person simply doesn't listen. They argue back, they shift the blame, or they completely change the subject just to cover up the real issue. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that defensive behaviors instantly shut down communication. When someone meets basic questioning with outright hostility, problem-solving just dies on the spot. Then we've got the final grouping, which highlights arrogance and stubbornness. This covers things like acting hypocritically, harboring jealousy, or visibly responding to feedback with dissatisfaction. But the absolute kicker is that last trait, stubbornly holding on to personal views. This kind of absolute stubbornness is like a brick wall against any personal growth. Honestly, it's pretty funny to think we've managed to invent artificial intelligence, yet if you can't detach from your own views when presented with better information, you are permanently stuck. Which brings us to part 3, flipping the script and becoming easy to admonish. So, what is the actual antidote to all that interpersonal workplace toxicity? Well, the text flips the script beautifully. It doesn't hand us some wildly complicated formula for being a good person. Instead, it defines someone who is easy to admonish simply as someone who systematically removes those 16 negative behaviors. It is literally addition by subtraction. By ensuring the complete absence of anger and defensiveness, you naturally make room for patience and a genuine, deep respect for feedback. Let's look at how we actually get there in part 4, the empathy engine, and the power of self-inference. To pull this off, the text hands us this incredible psychological tool that it calls self-inference, and it is stunningly simple but deeply, deeply effective. Just think about it. When someone acts arrogant, angry, or defensive towards us, we despise it. It completely ruins our day. Therefore, by simple self-inference, we have to realize that if we act arrogant or defensive, others will strongly despise us. It forces us to recognize that the exact traits we absolutely hate in our coworkers are the exact traits they hate in us. It's an empathy engine powered by basic, undeniable logic. Finally, we hit part 5, the mirror of the mind, the ultimate tool for self-reflection. Before giving us the tool itself, the text actually demands that we ask ourselves a pretty uncomfortable question. And notice, we aren't asking this about our boss or a partner or some political opponent. It asks directly, are we someone who yields to evil desires, anger, or defensiveness?
It forces an honest, unblinking inward look, rather than taking the easy road of just blaming the outside world.
Venerable Mahā Moggallāna uses this brilliant metaphor to illustrate exactly how we should approach self-examination. He says, just as a young person examining their facial reflection in a bright, clean mirror sees a blemish and tries to remove it, think about how absurd it would be to do anything else. When we look in the mirror and see a smudge of dirt on your face, you don't get mad at the mirror. You don't just ignore the dirt. You just wipe it off. We have to treat these 16 toxic mental traits with that exact same level-headed diligence.
The text practically gives us a clear 4-step mental algorithm for modern peace. Step 1, actually look in the mirror of self-reflection. Just pause and assess. Step 2, spot the blemish. Honestly identify if you are harboring any of those toxic traits we talked about, like shifting the blame. Step 3, don't wallow in guilt over it. Just actively work to abandon that trait. And step 4, once you do, the text says you should dwell in joy and delight. It becomes this continuous positive loop of self-improvement and lasting emotional relief.
So, what is the big, overarching takeaway from this 2,500-year-old discourse? It's simply this: outward peace absolutely requires inward courage. Whether you are navigating ancient village politics or stepping into a tense, modern AI-era corporate conflict, you cannot force the rest of the world to change. True peace and highly effective collaboration begin entirely with your own rigorous self-reflection. If we all focused on cleaning our own mirrors first, outward conflicts would naturally just diminish. I'm going to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you jump back into your day. Look, we all have blind spots. We all get defensive sometimes. But now you have the framework. I highly encourage you to take a moment and truly examine the reflection of your own mind. What blemish will you have the courage to clean from your mirror today? Thanks so much for exploring this ancient wisdom with me.